What's up, y'all? It's Ashley.
I'm Fee.
It's Melody.
And Cody here. And you've tapped into
The Mama's Den.
We're all mamas, and we've got 11 kids between the four of us. And let's just say we are tired. But we're also friends who are going through this journey of motherhood together.
Each week, we are giving you some laughs, maybe some tears, sharing our personal stories, and of course, giving advice, what we hope is helpful.
This is the show we wish we had before becoming mamas.
So grandmas, aunties, sisters, uncles, daddies, brothers, everybody who's in the village of raising children, we got you.
Shall we get into it, ladies?
Let's do it.
All right. Good morning, Mama's Den family. Ow. Okay, so we have a special guest today that we are so excited about, not simply because she is working hard on behalf of our Black families, but also we just like totally fangirl and love her.
Yes.
So who's gonna do the little intro?
I would
Melanie.
like to.
Yeah.
I would like to introduce this extremely beautiful, multifaceted woman of extraordinary abilities.
Ooh.
She is a mother, she is a host, she is a writer, an author, an established journalist. She is a true Sagittarius at heart, baby. Everybody makes a noise, and welcome to the Mama's Den, Elaine Welteroth. Shall we not forget Project Runway host? I said
That
host, but
part.
let's be clear on Project Runway because, baby, the people love Project Runway.
They do. The people
Guys,
do.
this is such a good vibe.
We try.
I love it here. And your voice,
You know, I do it for a living.
I just
It's so good to
love
see
you.
you.
Yeah, it's so good to see all of you guys. I'm a fan from afar. It's surreal to actually be here with you guys.
Yes.
This is my first, I said, of all the podcasts, I was like, for BirthFund, I was holding out because I've been wanting to do this for a while, but I was
Yes.
like, Mama's Den. That's the
Yay!
first one.
Yay!
This is the
We
first
love
time I'm able
that.
to like talk about this, and I wanted to do it with you guys first.
Well, shout out to Kim Durden because
Yes.
we had you on a list and they had actually said, Mel, would you reach out to Elaine? And then I was like, yeah, for sure. And then Kim came in and then I guess she connected the dots sooner. And so you're here sooner than we were expecting. We were so happy.
Yeah.
We're so happy to have you here.
But wait, how do y'all know each other? Because y'all knew each other before this.
So there's a funny story that, so Elaine, when you were on your book tour for More Than Enough,
Yes.
Jovian
Mhm.
invited me to the book tour. So I showed up and I went and I saw you at your book tour and we met for the first time there. I have a picture of us. I think I texted to you like a long time after. Then there was another time.
I was like,
I
is that Melanie Fiona?
Yeah.
Like the singer?
It was so sweet and you were so dynamic there. And I remember just seeing you for the first time there being like, oh my gosh, what a dynamic, beautiful person. Then I was at the Hollywood Bowl pregnant as hell and I saw Melody Asani during the
Wait, I was with you.
COVID. Were you
Is that
with me?
remember when we went to the Hollywood Bowl?
I think it was
And
that
we were in the
night.
same box, like
Yes,
unexpectedly.
Unexpectedly.
Oh, wow.
Y'all.
That's wild.
So
Not
I
a-
go to say hi to Melody, and you were off to the side in the back, but like you were kind of like distant. It was giving big Sagittarius energy, and I was like, I don't know if she remembers me.
shade?
Because I always say this about Sagittarius people. I was like, Sagittarius people, you might think they're not nice until you know them.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
you're like, they're so nice.
Mhm.
So you were like in the back. Mel came down to say hi to me. And we didn't get a chance to say hi. And I was like, oh, maybe she doesn't realize it's me. I was like, oh, so it's all good. But then shortly after you got pregnant.
Oh.
It was like right in the same time. And then everyone was like, she
no,
was
girl.
Or you
I
were
was
pregnant.
sick
Yes.
as a dog.
You were pregnant
I
at
was,
the time.
and I fell asleep at that concert.
Was it Dave Chappelle? No, what was it?
Yeah, it was.
Was it Dave
Was
Chappelle?
it Dave Chappelle?
Pre-cancellation. But anyway,
It done been canceled. It done canceled 18 times.
I know.
Yeah.
But
It
whatever
was
that
COVID. It was during
was,
COVID.
Yeah.
I was so sick. I barely made it there. No one knew I was pregnant.
That's what I remember.
And I literally halfway through was like this in my husband's lap, knocked out. So it wasn't. I didn't see anybody. I wasn't trying to see anybody. I was out of it.
So we were there
Yeah.
too, but I didn't get to say hi to you then. And then we actually ended up at Melody's birthday party.
Yes.
And then
yes.
realizing
and then you
that-
read me on the astrology chart.
We started talking about how our husbands have the same birthday.
Yes.
And then fell in love over astrology, started talking about the dynamics of marriage and being out with children and new babies because our kids are literally only 4 months apart.
Yes.
And then, understanding that when you're around someone who's pregnant, it feels like it's so far away, but then we end up closing the gap and now our kids are only 3-4 months apart, which is crazy.
It's crazy.
And then we've just hung out now a bunch of times through social things.
We went to
the
Aretha
house.
together. I mean,
We
not
went
Aretha.
to Anita Baker. It was so random, and then Kim, and then we just hung out a multitude of times.
Yes.
And I love hanging with you, and your circle of friends is amazing. And It's just been great. It's just been great getting to know you. So now we have a friend here in the Mama's Den.
And we had that one super random, long-ass phone call that night. Do you remember?
Okay, Elaine is my kind of girl because I really am this person. I'm like this with Ashley. Ashley's one of those people that's like, call you, have a conversation. We can talk 4 times a day, but we can always talk. Elaine and I would we're texting, and then she just out of the blue FaceTimed me, and she's like, "I'm so sorry. Is this weird?" And I was like, "No." And we ended up like talking on FaceTime, and then the service was crazy, and then we talked for like 3 hours.
Yeah,
wow.
I remember I was like laying by my fire. It was one of those like
Said, is this weird?
90s.
I was like, "No, FaceTime me." She's like, "Cause I'm a FaceTimer. Like, I don't mind." And I was like, "Okay." Then one time I FaceTimed you, we were in the back of a cab at car in Brooklyn.
Yeah. I prefer FaceTime. I don't know about you
I
guys.
love
It's so
FaceTime.
tight.
Wait, do
I
you like
forget-
an unannounced FaceTime?
100%.
I love it.
I think that's the best time to do it.
100%. Like that's how you know you're friends. If
Yeah.
you're gonna face me out of the
Pull
blue,
up.
then you're gonna catch me in my scarf.
100%.
You're gonna catch me on the toilet. I might be peeing, and we're gonna just jump
But you
in.
know what? You can hear
I'm
and
not
also know
polite
your
like
friend.
this.
No, wait.
Huh?
I said you can hear pee and also know your friend.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
I'll
but-
give you
oh,
a
no,
warning. I'll be like, oh.
It's like I just got out the shower.
But Melanie, remember when you FaceTimed me last week when I was at the hotel?
Oh God.
A mess.
I don't even think I want to know.
Yeah, let's
Don't
bring-
ask.
we're not-
Okay,
don't
okay.
ask. Ashley is an oversharer when it comes to her
Girl.
marital relations.
Oh,
I don't want to know.
He was facing the ceiling, and she was like, "Are you naked?" I was like, "Yeah, we just gotta have sex." But I'm totally. We could talk. He was
I said it was in the middle or something.
I said, "Girl, call me back."
he
She
was
was
leaving.
like, "No, he's leaving." I
You're
was
like, wait,
it was a
gather
hit and run
yourself.
situation. Okay, girl. Anyways, so yes, back to the
very
original
That's
Original
story.
totally another level
Girl.
of
Yeah,
That's
friendship.
like my sister.
New
Yeah.
level unlocked.
New level unlocked.
I love a FaceTime, and I love
Clearly.
that Elaine is a FaceTime girl.
Yeah. I actually forget that my phone can do regular phone calls.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's so awkward. I'm like, what are we doing? Just FaceTime me.
It's so weird.
yeah.
I feel the same way. I feel like it's
Hold it
very
up.
weird. I'm like, no. I want to see you
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
connect with you, but I don't have time to get up and go and see you. I have things to do. So
Yeah,
like,
you could
Exactly.
pop
this is
in
the
and just
easier
live your
way.
life and talk.
It's just like a different connection.
It is. It's like,
yeah.
hey, boo. Whereas if you call me, I'm actually more like offended and thrown off, and like this isn't on my calendar. If you call me,
What?
It feels. I
It's like
have the same
intrusive.
way.
It's like
Y'all, this
I
is
didn't.
wild.
This is not on my calendar. Like, are you okay? This must be an emergency
I
situation.
feel the same
Like,
way.
Wow.
Even my
I actually
mom,
feel
I'm
the
like, Mom,
opposite.
just text me. For me, the phone is for taking pictures.
My mom.
It's for texting or it's for FaceTime.
That's it.
But phone calls, unless it is scheduled, boo, and that's usually a Zoom. Like
I was gonna
just-
say it's a Zoom.
Yeah.
Even more
so
FaceTime.
phone calls just go
Wild.
so intrusive and old school. And the only people who call me, and I'm like, don't do that, are LA agents. It's such an LA agent thing to be like in the middle of the day, just like calling somebody. It's like, I have things.
I'm doing things.
I'm doing things. Can
I
you
don't have time to
schedule
be on the
this?
phone.
Yeah.
That's
No,
wild.
FaceTime me, I'll not answer. Hilarious.
FaceTime me, and I'm gonna be like, hey, boo.
That's
I don't even know
insane.
what to do with this.
I mean, neither.
I know. Sorry,
We're
we're
in the
deep.
minority here.
We're
Like,
deep.
truly.
We're
No,
deep.
The only person I know that FaceTimes like this is my cousin Tyler, and she is super grown, but we call her like a child because she's the youngest. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And so I'm just like, I thought it was like a young person, and y'all are young. Don't get me wrong.
We're
Especially
all-
you, Felicia.
It's
Cody,
giving
we're
Gen
all around the
Z.
same age.
No. Felicia is 33 years
She the
old
only
to
one.
my 40.
Okay, girl.
Okay, but my point is,
I'm
I
30
feel very
now.
old. That's all I'm saying. But
Oh.
you know what I'm saying? This is not me at all.
Don't
I
let
love
it age you.
FaceTime.
So
down.
we
As long
now
as
know
it's
love
fine.
I
FaceTime.
will not FaceTime you
Here's
out
the
of
thing,
blue.
y'all
I do
can
have
because
to
I now
understand.
know it about you, but like the people who just do it, like my cousin, child, it's just like, what?
Oh,
Oh,
I
I'm
love
gonna
it.
start
I love it
FaceTiming you
so
unannounced
much.
now.
You're gonna do it just
Me
because.
I
too.
am.
She's gonna do it to
FaceTime
rattle your
etiquette is
cage.
the thing.
It's crazy.
And like when you're making new friends as adults, you kind of do need to establish like what is your
Yes.
FaceTime etiquette. Like with Shan,
Yes.
she's a fairly new friend, and I just my instinct is to just FaceTime out of the blue. But I also am like, I get some people are weird about it, so I text her, and she's like, no, for me, FaceTimes out of the blue are like somebody is showing up at my doorstep.
That's how
Yes.
unannounced.
But that sounds like a very Shan response
Oh,
as well.
man.
However,
That's
I'm
what I
also
do.
one of those people that doesn't
Show up
mind
at
showing up
my
at my
house.
door.
This is
Right.
funny.
Right.
Melanie, I'm gonna
I
show up
know.
at your door.
Absolutely. You
No,
can
I
show up.
really am.
You can.
She'll be
The amount
okay
of
with
times
that.
I'm like, we should go to Melanie's house.
Everybody in this room could show up at my door, and I would never be like, "Oh my God, how could you not?" if I'm at home doing nothing, you can come and sit with me
Like,
and do
come
nothing.
through.
So wild to do that.
I would say I'm probably the
wild thing to
same.
do.
Wait, to
Go to-
FaceTime or
which is
You
why
just
it
go
would
to
be more
somebody's house?
awkward.
Oh, yeah,
but
no, that's
I'm
crazy.
like,
I'm like,
But not
insanity.
FaceTime.
Yeah.
I'll be like, what kind of food are we ordering? I'm like, girl, excuse me, I didn't brush my hair. Like, that'll be the best you get. Like, I don't care. Anybody can come over to my house.
Oh my god.
That's because you have a lot of people in your house, too.
You know how I feel
You
about
don't
She's
feel
like,
people
not
in my
another
house.
person.
You're not another
But
person.
even before that, I don't be liking people in my house. I don't like it. Just y'all, but
yeah,
you
I was
come
like,
over.
I wouldn't know.
But
Girl.
no, they
Ashley
know.
was like, we don't sit right there. I was like,
This is why I don't want nobody in my house because I'm very
friend.
OCD.
What's your sign?
I'm a Capricorn.
Oh, that's right. That's
yeah,
right.
but
That's right.
I just my house
You're
is very clean.
particular.
Yes, it's like I don't have children.
Yes.
Tauruses.
Yes.
Yeah, you would be surprised.
Wait,
if
what
you
is
came to my
everybody?
home.
Now I need to know. What? Okay, Capricorn. What are you?
Scorpio.
Scorpio.
Cancer.
Cancer. She even said it with her heart.
Scorpio.
And our other Scorpio.
Scorpio,
over
two
there.
Scorpios.
Oh,
Okay.
Capricorn.
Yep, yep.
And Capricorn.
And a Capricorn. Okay.
This is so good. Such a good
Look, look,
balance.
It is a good balance.
Okay, let's stay focused, y'all.
Yeah,
Okay, let's stay
Sorry.
I
focused.
feel like we should probably talk about the birth fund because we can easily go somewhere else real
Yes.
quick.
Yeah. You could piece
And
this together, right,
so
Tiffany?
Maybe we just start with your motherhood journey and what even led
Yes.
you. First off, what led you to the beautiful, amazing Kim Durden,
Oh my gosh.
and then
I love
creating the
Kim.
birth fund.
Oh, we could talk about this for an hour. Let
I
me try to
know.
condense
Exactly.
it. Well, let's see. Where do I begin? When I found out I was pregnant in summer 2021, I remember thinking, first of all, holy shit,
Mhm.
because it was not planned. And I was very much like, what is, like, it felt like a detour. It felt like, whoa, 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 this
Mhm.
wasn't in my plans.
Mhm.
And I have been very intentional about the way I've designed my life. Intention is important to me in general. And so for me, it was like the shock of my life that I somehow allowed the most important thing to happen to me, like to me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Versus like calling it in and being really intentional about the timing and
Putting
so,
it on your calendar.
You know what I'm saying? But also, this is not one of those things that sometimes you get to control.
Mhm.
And so for me, it was a 9-month, I don't want to say, it was a 9-month renegotiation with the role that control gets to play in my life.
Mm.
And it was a journey of surrender at every turn. And it was humbling, to say the least. It was challenging for me mentally, physically. I had a challenging pregnancy.
Mhm.
And I thought, well, what do you do when you get pregnant? I guess you find a doctor. So I asked all my friends for doctors' recommendations, and I thought, like, how hard could it be to find a good doctor in LA? Turns out, even with good insurance, even with good connections, wow,
Yeah.
the experiences that I was having in these doctors' offices were alarming in the worst way. I was so disappointed with the standard of care. And I kept thinking, like, this is a fluke. Like, this person had a bad day, or we just aren't the right fit. And I just kept going through these doctors and having these bad experiences. And I quickly recognized that it wasn't about the doctors, it was about the system. This is a system.
Yeah.
This is a systemic problem. The system's broken because everything about this, the way that this is set up, does not feel as though it is intended to serve a woman in her most vulnerable state, going through her most personal transition that is much deeper than physical. It is, there's so much that happens during the process of becoming a mother. And this process just does not support or cater to that. And, it felt like a very spiritual and sacred experience that I was in. And there was nothing sacred or spiritual about these 10-minute visits where I was being talked down to and rushed and made belittled. And I just kept feeling smaller and smaller as I was coming out of these appointments. And it started to make me feel like something was wrong with me. Like, what am I doing wrong? What, like, and that's a really sad place to be when you feel like you're not getting cared for by the people that you are relying upon to care for you in your most vulnerable state,
Exactly.
Yep. And I was in my 3rd trimester before I actually learned about kindred space and midwifery and this other option. And I did have 2 girlfriends of mine who had home births, and they sort of normalized it a little bit, but more so. And I watched The Business of Being Born, which really opened my eyes. It illuminated for me the sort of why this system feels the way it does when you're moving through it, why you feel like a number. It's set up that way. It's set up for profit over patient care. And they are incentivized to move you in and out as fast as possible. And specifically, we know now how that impacts people's birthing journeys and labor and delivery. And we understand the correlation between this system, the brokenness of this system, and the outcomes and how terrible they are in this country, especially for Black women. So I was on this journey of discovery, both as a mom, first-time mom, but also as a journalist. And I think because I felt so bewildered and so disempowered, the thing that allowed me to reclaim my power in that process was putting on my journalist hat and trying to understand it through that lens, like, what is happening? And if this is happening to me, what is the experience for people who do not speak English, who are immigrants, who are in birth care deserts in this country, who don't have access to insurance, like, who don't have, the network that I have and the resources that I have? Like, I'm having an awful experience of this. It can't be much better for everyone else.
Right.
Like, I really dug into wanting to understand, statistically and systemically what is happening and what are the solutions. And when I came across this stat that 80% of the maternal deaths in this country are preventable, a light bulb went off. I'm like, so wait, there are solutions? Wait a minute. So, because all you ever hear about are these sad stories of mothers not making it through, or these traumatic birth stories, and Black women definitely hear that, the statistic that we die 3 to 4 times the rate of white women. I think many of us have this misconception that must be like a certain kind of Black woman. And that's totally false. What I found through my research is that wealthy Black women are dying at higher rates than the poorest white women in this country. So it is not a socioeconomic issue. And it's also not a Black woman's issue. And I think, unfortunately, it's been painted this way, and I think it's part of why we're dismissing it as a culture. I think we have this conversation about the maternal health crisis has existed in the shadows, like in the margins. And it sort of feels like something that A, is too big to fix, too depressing to think about. And so we turn the other cheek, we hope for the best when it's our turn, and we're waiting on someone else to fix it. We're waiting on philanthropists, doctors, birth workers, insurance companies, hospitals to get together and figure it out. They're not figuring it out fast enough. And the fact that I know I've lost someone in my life who was a beautiful, educated, one of the brightest lights I've ever met, someone that had a child young, like relatively young, had a beautiful career, had a beautiful husband, both of them, they made good money, had access to the best. She didn't survive childbirth. And the fact is, when you look at these numbers, these are stories, these are humans, these are families that are broken forever. So it's not enough to talk about this issue through the lens of stats anymore. But it's also not enough to talk about it through the lens of sad stories. We need to be talking about it through solutions, through the lens of solutions. What can we be doing to fix this? And also, if there are solutions, why are we not rallying around them? Like, I learned about midwifery firsthand. First of all, the care model. I'm not here to create any hierarchies or to create any stoke the mommy wars about how you should give birth or what the better way is. That's not my place. It's a personal decision. For me, it was the superior choice by far. I felt holistically cared for. I felt the way that Kim came into my life and the way that she made me feel on the first phone call was radically different from the way I had felt walking out of all those other doctor's appointments. They care about your whole mind, body, soul. They want to address and lean into all the factors that contribute to maternal death, stress, your financial picture, your relationship, like what you're eating exactly. Like they get in with you, they invest with you. It feels like you inherit this like auntie, this like godmother.
Especially
godmothers,
okay.
Yeah. So basically, like me learning about how much better for me this midwifery model was, I was just like, and when I started to dig in again as the nerd in me, the journalist, and I saw that the thing that all these other countries have in common who have much better maternal outcomes than us is that they all have midwifery care as their standard default form of maternal health care. And so when I dug in, like the CDC and all of these, there's so much research to support that midwifery supports better outcomes across the world. So why aren't we investing in it in this country when we are the deadliest place to give birth? And most people don't know that. I think when people hear the term maternal health crisis, it sounds like a third world problem, which we know third world isn't even the right term, but that's how people think of it, as something that's happening out there in these poor countries, but it's not happening here. And we could not be more wrong. It is happening right here to women like us. And so for me, I just started to think like, if this can save lives, first of all, we need to be focused on creating greater access to midwifery care, period. And for me, as somebody who, you know, I learned how much it costs, and it's expensive for a lot of people, especially, you know, if you have other children and you have other expenses and you know, it's expensive for most people. But there's a lot of folks who could look at that number, 7,000, 10,000, and be like, when you think about what your charitable giving looks like throughout the year, that's nothing. So how do we make this the sort of du jour, like the in vogue thing to invest in, you know? And so I started thinking about all of these powerful, influential, well-resourced folks that I have, you know, in my network. And I'm like, if they knew that this was a crisis that is impacting all of us, and they knew that there was this solution that could make that's within reach, they would invest in it. Like, and also I know when I get like Sagittarius, when I get focused on something, I can be very convincing. And I'm like, just put me in front of people with money and let me paint the picture for them. And that's exactly what I started to do. But I started first really small, because I think part of the problem with the maternal health crisis is that it feels so big, it feels so complex, and it feels too fucked up to fix. But if you think about it, if you break it down and you think about, well, what is one solution that we can rally around? And what is the one thing I can do? And if we all just did that one thing, we could move the needle on this in our lifetime. And that's kind of how I thought about it. If you break it down super small, if I, Elaine Welteroth, for my birthday, can afford to pay for the cost of care for another family in my neighborhood to have access to Kim and those midwives that are doing God's work at Kindred Space LA, then I have done something good. And then if I can take that, which is what I did for my birthday, that's how BirthFund started. I started with just a fundraiser on Instagram on my birthday. And I basically was like, you know, and this is after a year and a half of a lot of advocacy work around this and trying to bring this conversation to mainstream media outlets, because it wasn't happening enough. Like, you know, and so I've taken it, I've gone to the Capitol, I've talked to lawmakers, like I've done my work trying to understand how to be an effective advocate. But I also felt like you can only talk about the problem so long before you need to be part of the solution. And so for me, my birthday was like that call to action, where it's like, this is when it's small, but this is my contribution. And people rallied. And I remember, like, I put my phone down, I posted it, I put my phone down, I went to enjoy my birthday. And then somebody texted me, they're like, oh my gosh, did you see you hit your goal already? And then I was like, they're like, you beat your goal. And I was like, what? And I went on, and we were able to raise $16,000 in 16 hours with no, like, I didn't even do like a follow-up story
Yeah,
post.
yeah.
Like I was just
Yeah.
like, I moved on with my life, and I was just like, wow, this was my proof of concept.
Mhm.
If you give people a very simple call to action, and you make it easy to do the right thing, they will do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I was just like, this is it. One-to-one community support model. If you can humanize this issue and break it down, and create a model that's scalable, we can make moves like quickly. So I basically, from December until this very moment, have been building this thing really quickly. And I've made calls to a lot of people, a lot of companies. The way that we're scaling this very simple community support model is by bringing in, people that can write big checks, individuals and also corporations. And we're saying to them, if we as citizens can put our money where our values are, you as corporations who sell to families have a responsibility to invest in those families as well.
I have like 1,000 questions.
Me too.
I'm
Let's
so here for
go.
this. I'm
Let's
so
go.
excited. You can go.
No, you go first.
Okay. Well, first off, once you raise this money, how does someone get access?
So for the first round, first of all, our founding funders, I put together a circle of 10 family funders. We have Serena Williams, Alexis Ohanian. We're bringing dads into the conversation because that's something that's been left out of the conversation. I'm like, by the way, no one is more affected than the dads who are coming home from these hospitals
without their partners.
without their partners.
Yeah.
So really happy to have men like Alexis Ohanian, John Legend involved, Chrissy Teigen, Carly Kloss, Ashley Graham, Abby Phillip, Kelly Rowland. And by the way, everybody I asked said yes.
Aww.
Everybody, not one person said no, which says a lot about the fact that families are ready to activate.
Yeah.
Like my call to action, my feeling about this is it's on us to save us.
Yes.
And when you say that to it doesn't matter how much money you make. Mothers, we are connected across the world. And it really is on us to save us. And I think that call to action has been really effective. And then we have companies on board from SoFi who came in as a presenting partner at the highest level, at the highest investment level. They are going to give, I'm not going to say the amount because my amount might change, but they're making a significant investment in these families in our pilot round. They're creating a bespoke financial literacy program for them. They're giving them financial advisors to help build their financial future for their families. They did research that showed it takes $20,000 to have a baby in that first year. So they're investing that back into these families. That's an actual investment into them. So it's so beautiful to see companies put their money where their values are and to come to the table creatively. Like I'm saying, this is what BirthFund is here to do. We are going to cover the cost of care for midwifery for people who want it all over this country. What can you do? That's really the call to action. They're coming to the table creatively, rolling up their sleeves and going, well, we can address this from a financial crisis lens, and we can offer some of these tools from our bank. I'm partnering with Bobby, which is an organic formula company, mom founded, mom led. They're coming in, they're offering a year of lactation support services to all of our families and a Bobby subscription if they need it. Babylist is coming to the table. They're giving all of our families a gift card to help cover the cost of their registry. Like when you give these individuals or you give companies a call to action, like they show up.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is that that I find so interesting is that we live in a world where in many areas, we see the lack of resources available to everyone. And then that there's like this huge disparity where there's companies and people who have extreme wealth and extreme success and all it takes is somebody coming to the table and be like, here's what you need to do with it.
Yeah.
Because there's not somebody in there thinking about how can we and what needs to be addressed and how can we further serve the world and the community, because everything is about capitalism and gain. But when you realize it's like truly, whether you're about that or not, put your money where your value is, where our values are. And sometimes people don't have the ideas. They just need someone to come and be like, put it here.
Mm-hmm.
Let me show you
Representation.
why
Yeah.
this is important. Let me tell you why this is necessary, because whether you realize it or not, from a front forward facing, this affects you or someone you
Yes.
love directly.
It does.
And you don't, nobody's thinking about that. Everything is so transactional and corporate, and, you know, and so I really do feel, one, just congratulations
Yes.
on the success of your life as far as it goes for you personally, but even greater as a human being, taking what you've been blessed to experience and cultivate for yourself, and being willing to shine a light on people that do get forgotten and marginalized communities and people who do need this help. And it's really important work. It's not just like
Thank
good
you.
work, it's important work.
Thank you.
God's
And
It's life-changing work.
yes, you know, and it's funny because this is how we talk about Kim. It's like,
Mhm.
you know, and seeing what she does. And we always think about her. We're like, you know, talking about her, sharing her. I recently did something where I brought her in because they were having a conversation about Black menstrual health. And I was like,
saw Recipe for Change.
yes. And I was like,
I loved that.
Kim Durden needs to be at this table.
Yes.
Like, you know, and so I love that through your journey to motherhood with Kim, you have investigated this, cultivated this, created this, and are pushing this movement forward.
We have to.
So it's just necessary.
Thank you so
Because
much.
there
but
are earth angels out there like Kim Durden that need the help and the spotlight shone on them to help other people, because they are doing God's work.
They
literally.
are. And, you know, for so long, midwifery has been, there's been like a propaganda machine working against them.
Yes.
And so there's so much stigma around what midwifery really is. Are they witch doctors?
Oh my gosh.
Do they even have any training?
Yeah.
Is it safe? Like, people project so much fear onto folks who choose to go the midwifery route. They're like, oh my God, I'm so scared for you. Like, and it's like, if you knew what the outcomes were in the hospital, you should be scared for me when I'm going.
Exactly.
Yep.
Again, I'm not anti-doctor and I'm not anti-hospital. They have a place, but so does midwifery.
So does
Yes,
midwifery.
yes.
And so I just think, you know, people like Kim deserve to be lifted up. The work that she's doing and the work that midwifery, the midwives, doulas, and birth workers are doing in the community just needs to be reframed, you know,
Yes.
so that it's more normalized and it becomes a choice that people can consider if the traditional path isn't working for them. And then to answer your question about how people can have access to this. So BirthFund is partnering with Birth Center Equity, which is a network of 40 BIPOC owned and led birth centers all across the country. Kim actually works with them now, and she is working with the BirthFund as our liaison, who is helping to identify and vet the birth
Amazing.
workers that are partnering with the BirthFund, right? So we identify them through BCE, and then we're asking those birth workers who know better than anybody who in their community needs this care, where they have the true financial need, and they're nominating families.
Bum.
And then so we have our own due diligence vetting process internally. I've partnered with the Victoria Project, which, if you guys are not familiar, an incredible resource for mothers in Southern California. They've been basically doing similar work to the BirthFund for the last 4 years, but only in Southern California. So I've partnered with them to run our grant program. They already have their vetting process. They already have their, you know, their infrastructure. And so they are, by partnering with us, they're sort of taking their mission nationwide. And by me partnering with them, I can get this off the ground really quickly. So it's just a beautiful ecosystem, bringing people together. I think of BirthFund as a coalition. You know, I can't solve this on my own, and I'm a newcomer to this space. I really want BirthFund to be this coalition that's bringing together all of the most effective entities that are doing great work in this space, and just elevating that work and shining a light on that work and getting the resources to flow through it. So so that's how families are coming into our network. It's coming through the birth workers, and then we will be opening up applications, but that's going to happen a little bit later. Once we get through our first fundraiser, which is live right now and on Instagram. So all of our family funders we're all
great.
participating in this
Love
IG
it.
fundraiser. So if you follow any of the people I mentioned, Serena, Ashley Graham, Aisha Curry, I forgot to mention her, Kelly Rowland, any of them, you'll see it on their Instagram, and you can, you know what, $5,
Yes.
$10, like
I think people overlook the fact that a little goes so far. in
yes,
this. Like,
yes.
so far. And
Big change starts small. That's what I always say. Big change starts small.
Yeah.
my $16,000 for my first raise, so many of those contributions were $5, $10,
Yes.
$25.
We spend that
And
on coffee.
We
Yes.
do. We
Spend it on
do.
coffee.
Yeah.
So many questions.
Yes, you do, Cody.
For sure, twice a day. And more than 5. Yeah, because that's what I was gonna ask too. Like if I'm a mama in Dallas and
Yeah.
I'm like pregnant right now, is there anything I can do, or is it like waiting until that next round? Is there anything I can do for one of those birth centers to nominate me?
Well, I think, stay in touch with BirthFund. Follow us
Yeah.
closely because
Okay.
we are going to be communicating as our network of birth centers grows and expands. You should, be on that list. Make sure that you're aware of it. And we're growing this thing really thoughtfully, really slowly. Like we want to make sure this is life and death, Birth is it's serious. So we're making sure that we are partnering with the most established birth centers and birth workers that have the best outcomes. And we're going to grow from there. So our first round, we have 10 birth centers across the country, and we're going to continue to expand that network over time. And so I would say, if you live in one of these cities that we're touching, connect with the local birth centers and Black birth workers in that community, get plugged in. But also there will be an application process that opens up a little bit after we close this first round and we know exactly what our capacity to give is. Then you will, if you follow the BirthFund, like we'll tell you exactly like where you can apply, exactly where the money is deploying, which everyone will have to live within a certain radius to the birth center. But the incentive here, the hope here is that this becomes a model that can grow with, like, I think we want, there's an opportunity here for larger systemic change to happen down the line by following what we're doing. Like, this is a pilot program that is something that lawmakers should be paying attention to,
Yes.
that insurance companies should be paying attention to, because we're going to be collecting data as we go. And we intend to prove with data that birth workers are achieving better outcomes for lower rates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're also here to prove that there is a growing need and demand for this kind of care. And so that is going to help us paint a business picture for a business problem that needs a business solution that will require insurance companies to expand access to cover midwifery care. And that's the real way we're going to see, change at scale. But again, it has to start small. We got to start somewhere, and we're going to make a lot of noise around this. That's part of why we got the people we got involved, because you can't ignore this when you have all of these people joining forces, raising our voices, saying the same thing. We need a better standard of care for moms in this country, period.
I love it so
No,
much.
I think this is beautiful. That's what I was going to say, because I shared with them when Kim was here that my friend who lives in Amsterdam, she was just telling me that everybody, you get a midwife first, and going to the hospital is the second option. So when she had her first child here, she was like, I hate it. And she was like, no.
She said, I hate it here.
She does. She was like, I hate it here. And she had her second child in Amsterdam, and she was like, it is just night and day experience. But I think it's really beautiful that you all are using your celebrity for that, because it's so funny. Like, you often hear people say the system isn't working. I'm like, the system is always working. That is the problem. So it's really about changing the system and changing the narrative. And it's the same way when you think about alcohol, when you think about weed, when you think about anything. It's just like, okay, well, how can the government make money from this? And then that's when they start caring.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like, if this becomes a standard and we just change the laws around it, because it's not something that is like unachievable. I believe that they know that this obviously works. It's existing in other countries everywhere. It's just about making it become the standard. And I love, like, when Serena came out and she shared her birth story, I think that's super important, is for people to continue to share their stories, use their power, use their money to contribute to this, because it's really like highlighting what's super important. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
But I love this. I'm glad that you're doing it. I definitely am someone who comes from like a low income living. And so my experience with my first child, when I was like on public insurance versus now, like the last 3 was night and day. And I think having people that have that name to share the importance of that is super important, because just in those environments, you're not always given that opportunity, and you're not given access to even know that first of all, there's programs that exist, but they just don't share them with you.
Yeah. Right.
And that's part of the problem too.
Yeah.
So I love this initiative, and I'm super happy and excited, and can't wait to contribute myself.
Thank
yeah.
you.
It's so beautiful.
Thank
It
you.
is.
It's like you're doing the work, and it's not easy work, like trying to move the needle in this way and to like really face such a big issue it's challenging, you know? So I think the fact that you're doing it is like so amazing. I'm like, I love it. I'm so inspired.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
I'm just like
much.
soaking all of it.
It's really, I would also like to say that what I do appreciate about the Mama's Den and just the guests that we have on and people that are here is that in our own ways, each individually, even collectively every week, we are creating spaces to heal mothers and to bring a resource that is needed for women to be able to advocate for themselves, not feel alone, know who to ask, find out about BirthFund, find out about what Kim Durden does and all these different people. And so that's just really like, that is all important work.
Yeah.
And so
That's why I wanted to come here first.
Yay!
You know,
We
because
appreciate that.
it is hard work in the sense that it's controversial to some people, you know,
And it's like the solution is right there. Everybody just do
Yeah.
it.
right.
Yeah.
But you're coming up against like big industries
Yeah.
that are not incentivized to
Care.
I think the issue of birth, reproductive rights, it becomes so divisive so quickly, and it shouldn't be, because my thing is this is not a politicized issue. If you care about life, human life, if you care about family values, then you should care about this issue, you know? So being able to start the conversation here where you guys have already cultivated this amazing community, supportive community of mothers who speak the same language, who are like-minded, like these voices need to be louder than the naysayers who are trying to say that this is controversial or divisive or political when it's not. Like everybody came from a mom.
Right.
Yeah.
We all came through the birth canal, right? Like this is something that should appeal to any human being.
But just as important too as like creating the fund and making sure that people have access is still the education.
Yeah.
There's still
100%.
people who are like midwifery, or
Right.
not even midwifery. That's the big word, right? It's like a midwife.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
And that's okay because that's sort of how we were raised. That's what but the learning that you have options
and
is
unlearning.
one of the things. Yes. Is one of the things that I'm super passionate about. Just having the Birth Fund, giving people an opportunity to say midwife over and over and over again and go, oh, wait, I have an option.
Yeah.
Is
Right.
incredible to me. And I feel like we've come so far. Like, I mean, I worked with Kim when she was a midwife in training. And so, and I had to find her. Like I had to find.
Did she catch your baby?
She ultimately, I was transferred to the hospital for my first.
Okay.
But my experience with Kim was I had to find a midwife that was Black in LA. It was not easy. Lots of people had to point me in that direction. Finally, get to Kim, who's under this white woman who's wonderful, Heather Schwartz. And so that was my experience with Kim and my first child. Did transfer to the hospital. Kim acted as my doula through that process at the hospital. And then when I got pregnant with twins, and it was like, I guess I have to do a doctor because I had this C-section. I'll probably have to have another one. She sent me to Yanni's doctor. Her daughter had twins as well, like a year before me. So I go to him, like fully planning to have a VBAC, or trying to have a VBAC. Very skeptical of the medical system and like, will I be able to do this? Not simply because I don't know about my body, but like, will I be allowed?
Right.
And finding him through Kim and his commitment, like I was so skeptical down to being in the OR because I was required to be. And I'm like, they're just trying to cut me open. But knowing that she was there, knowing that she helped select him, and being able ultimately to have the VBAC, like none of that would have happened, honestly, without her and her experience and knowledge and understanding of this industry, this birth industry. And that started with me having exposure to The Business of Being Born and the Ina May Gaskins and the Farm Women Midwives documentary. And none of that, like, people don't see those things.
Yeah. We're not
don't
taught
have that
at
access.
all.
And you saying The Business of Being Born, I'm like, we don't have a 2024 midwife movie. These movies are old.
So let's make one.
Okay. No, for real.
There we go.
And it's
There we
like,
go.
so anyway, my point is just being able to say midwife, just being able to tell people what that is and then tell them that they can have that access through the Birth Fund is like mind blowing. Like I'm so excited.
But also you're the midwife recommending you to a doctor, which just goes to the point that we're saying, like we're not omitting doctors out of the equation, but they can work hand in hand together. Yes, for what's best for the mother so that the mother and the baby stay earthside after the birth, because that's the whole point. So yeah,
That is the whole point.
that's the whole point.
Let us live.
And I just want to say, like, because I sometimes I hear myself talking about this because now I'm so fired up about it. And I'm like, I hear myself and I'm like, this is crazy.
Right.
Like, literally 3 years ago, if you were like, Elaine, what is midwifery? I would have been like, midwifery?
Midwifery?
Like,
what is this word?
I very clearly remember not knowing anything about this. So I don't think, like, I am here, like, there's no dumb question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are not taught this. It's intentional. It's by design, and it's up to us to teach us and to teach each other as we go. So I don't want this to ever feel like it's over people's heads.
Yep.
Or it's like, I don't know what they're talking about. Like, neither did I, girl. I didn't know either. And I was a full-on journalist. I was a full educated woman. And didn't know anything about my IQ about my body was so low. That's how I got pregnant on accident. You know what I mean? Like, so like, I just don't want to like, I don't want
crazy.
anybody to hear this conversation and think like I'm not some public health expert. I'm just like a mom and a woman who learned about a better option and just like wants to try to help people become aware of that option, you know?
Isn't it so amazing how through all of our experiences, it has literally led us to being like, okay, what is the way that I can advocate for other moms?
100%.
I'm like, our children give us so much purpose,
They
like on a
really
deeper
do.
level. I just did an interview right before this, and she was like, how has motherhood changed your career? I'm like, my whole life is motherhood. I'm like, every single angle.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just the purpose. I'm like, it's so important and the intention behind it, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Was that ever hard for
Amazing.
any of you guys though, from an identity level? Because
Yes.
when I became pregnant, and I don't know, for me, I was like, I don't want to become like a mommy person. I don't want to be like stuck in this lane that, like, I remember vividly having the thought like, but nobody cares about mom stuff.
Yeah.
Like that
It's
literally.
true. Yeah.
went
Well,
in
now
my-
I felt
you're
that.
home.
Well, like, welcome home. Right.
Look, I'm about to say we need another
resisted.
hour with you, girl.
I
'Cause
know.
we
I
care
know.
about
okay,
mom
I have
stuff.
a question. Hold on. Okay. First, I want to say thank you, Elaine, for coming by the Mama's Den.
Ashley, cut it out.
Well, yeah, we got to go to the last question, girl.
Yeah.
We got to wrap it
Yeah.
up.
I was like,
Okay.
Already?
I know.
Oh my God, that time went so freaking fast.
That's what happens in the Mama's Den. You sit, you talk.
That's why we're gonna
time
have
goes
her
by.
back,
Yes,
right?
Yes.
Let's go part
We're gonna
two.
make you commit right
definitely
now.
have
Yeah,
Yes.
we do. I feel like we didn't
All
get to
the
talk about like
things.
fun stuff.
yeah.
I know.
We need
A little bit.
testimonies.
We talked
Yeah.
about fund stuff.
Yeah, we got all that stuff. I'm grateful
Okay,
for it.
writer, singer, songwriter. Okay. No, seriously. Remember, if you have any questions, you can always hit us up on podcast@blacklove.com.
Podcast with an S.
Podcast with an S. Okay, so here's our question of the day. We do a little segment, question of the day.
Okay.
I have a question for you. My name is Rose, and I'm from CT.
Connecticut.
Connecticut. Yes, but I'm going to, because I read it the way she said it. Thank you.
I mean,
Great. Okay. My name is Rose, and I'm from CT. First and foremost, I'd like to start by saying how much I love you guys as a group. My question is, how did you guys manage parenting with your spouse? For example, my partner and I have different expectations when it comes to the baby. He's more traditional and wants me to play the motherly role 95% of the time, while also work.
Woo, child.
95?
95.
It's very accurate.
Guys,
Damn.
stay focused. While also working and taking care of the home, groceries, dinner, cleaning. Although
What? Is it 1950?
I know, girl.
her name is Rose, guys. Although it's like an
Edit
older
that out,
name.
please.
Judging
Please edit that
Rose.
out.
That was Chia's
We're
grandma's
gonna edit that
name.
out.
That's
You know,
like an
don't you
older
start.
name.
Don't you
We're
start.
gonna
an
edit
older
that
woman.
out.
Okay,
We're not
guys.
gonna cut this woman out of her name.
Make you should sing. Can I call you Rose?
Can I call you Rose?
Don't forget all about that.
It's not my fault this time. Although he handles the bills, I still put money towards the house every month. I've been having a hard time accepting the always busy mom life. What's your opinion? And what was your experience dealing with parenting roles and being the first time parents with your spouse? Elaine, you answer first.
I was just going to say, I was
No,
doing
we
this to
need one
Elaine.
person
And I'm going to
here.
say, and the reason why I'm going to throw this to Elaine, because Elaine and I were sitting here off camera and we were talking, we're like, we have good men. We have good men. And it's so crazy because you are a woman who is very, very established in all of your roles in your life. Like, you're a great mom, you're a great businesswoman, you're a great advocate, you're a great friend, you're a great daughter, sister, all these things. And you have a partner that really does support and love you through all of that.
And hold me down.
And hold you down. And so I would love for you
Yes.
as the guest here today to share what your experience is, because I think it is important that we recognize that when we are in these spaces trying to be great contributors to our home and the world, that you do need someone there to help you. Like, you cannot
100%.
do it by yourself. So
No.
and there are so many women who are doing it by themselves.
I think most
Yeah.
importantly, maybe just explain how the two of you came to how you parent. Do you know what I mean? Like, how did you guys decide, and what roles do either of you play? How does that make?
I don't know if there was so much of a conversation about it. I think we naturally defy a lot of those gender norms, like in general in our relationship, and always have. My husband is very nurturing. He is he feeds me in every way, and I literally would not survive. Like, I don't know how I would have made. He made me that sandwich that's in that bag right there. Like,
That's a good man, Savannah.
Yes, a good man. That's literally what my best friends say. They say, that's a good man, Savannah.
Yes.
They're like, if you ever mess this up, we're going with Jonathan. They like already
You
declared
sound
that.
like Cody with Chia.
Man. So yeah, I feel like we have established a balance that just works for us. And when our baby came into the picture, I think we just kind of fell into our roles, and we are partners. Like, there is no 95-5.
Right.
Like, no, we're partners. And there are a lot of days that he takes the lead parent role because of what I am called to do, and he supports that. And then there's other times where he needs to go off, and he needs to make music, and that's when I'm the lead parent. You know, I think that, like, we ebb and flow, and we are respectful of the demands on each of our lives, and we're also respectful of each of our strengths. Like, I think every relationship should feel free enough to define for yourself the roles that you're best suited to play. And I don't
Absolutely.
think that should be determined by your gender.
No.
Yeah.
So do you think that, to answer Rose's questions, when she says experience dealing with parenting roles and being first-time parents with your spouse, what would you say as far as how she might be able to advocate for herself in having the conversations? And I did, because, you know, she's doing groceries, dinner, cleaning, what she says, and that might be her strength, but who knows? Her husband could have those strengths if he
That's
did it,
the
and you
thing.
don't know, right?
So I feel like so many women, moms, who are in this position and who are overextended and becoming resentful of their partners, sometimes I ask them, have you ever asked
Right.
for help?
Exactly,
Girl.
yeah.
And they
Have-
always say no.
They're like, no. And
I
I'm
don't
like,
want to. I'm like, girl.
I'm just like, closed mouth don't get fed, and
That
this
part.
is not cute. Like, this
Yeah.
is not how relationships survive. This is like, you
It's
have
not
to,
sustainable.
it's not sustainable. Like,
Yeah.
I think you just have to be clear. Like, hey, I feel overextended. Hey,
Hey.
Yeah.
time's up. Can we recalibrate? Let's create a list. Let's have a business meeting about how we're running our household. I don't feel like this is sustainable. I cannot continue doing it like this. Let's split this list. What from this list do you think you can take on? Like, and then also, if you can afford help, I think there's a lot of people who can afford help and support, but are too prideful or
Yeah.
too
That
ashamed
part.
to
Yep.
ask
I was
for it.
I was that person.
Yeah.
Until
were-
last
Until
week.
last week.
girl.
I
Until
have-
last week.
I
Okay.
homeschool my kids. I have 4 children.
Oh,
Me
that's
and my
a
husband
lot.
both work from home. I
She
just
said, "Oh, that's a lot."
I just got a nanny last week. And
Can you
we
break
love
that
this
down?
for you.
What was it holding you back if you could afford it?
my mom was a single mom, and she did it all on her own. And
Okay.
so literally, it's so funny when when I had my children, my mom looked at me and was like, I had all of my kids without epidural. You don't need to have an epidural.
Ooh.
So I didn't have an epidural with all 4 of my children.
Oh,
She was
my.
like, I breastfed all my kids till they were 2. You could do that. And I think my mom was coming from a place of love, but she has always been like my marker of the best mom. My mom, I didn't even know that like microwavable foods existed. My mom made every single thing that I ate from scratch. She grew gardens. Like, that is,
Wow.
and that's how I've been. Like, I make everything from scratch, would never buy anything frozen, felt like a failure because I was comparing myself to my mother. So I'm like,
that's
if my
hard.
mom could raise 4 kids by herself with no help, and my husband is the most amazing man in the world. Girl, he just flew with all 4 of our kids by himself so that I could fly alone because I was overwhelmed. So like, I have an amazing partner. I just felt like if I have a great husband, why would I hire somebody? It just made me feel less than.
Yeah.
And it was made up in my head because, again, I have the help. I have the community. I just felt like a bad mom for having someone else come in my house because I'm like, well, I could do it all. My mom did it all, but I cannot. I will not. I shall not. And I have hired help.
Yeah, no.
And we're so
That's the
proud of
testimony.
her.
So proud.
That's the testimony Miss Rose needs. to hear.
Miss Rose, ask for the help.
We're so proud of you.
Because I know we got to wrap it up, but I do want to say this. I do think it's important, specifically for women, because she's a first-time mom. When you're dating and in those conversations, you kind of have to gauge who your partner is. Because I read back through this, and she said that he's more traditional.
Yeah.
So I think it's important going into your relationship, understanding the expectation of your partner.
Yeah.
And if they are looking for, because that's a new thing too, the trad, the traditional wives, that's a thing. Like, it's all over TikTok. Like, if that's what the expectation of your partner has, and you know that that's not how you want to exist as a woman, that
But
might not be the
sometimes
partner
you
for
don't
you.
know till
Well,
you
that's why I
get
said
there.
having those
Yeah.
conversations early on. I think when I met my husband, he already knew what it was.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm gonna be who I'm gonna be, child. You might get a stay-at-home wife,
Yeah.
but like, I don't know. Just go with the flow.
I
so
think it
it's
can
important.
be really scary to realize now that you're in it.
Yeah.
Oh, this isn't how I want
Yeah,
it to
for
look.
sure.
But that
Hard.
doesn't mean you shouldn't say something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
you have
And
absolutely.
it's
That's the
hard,
part.
but I
Yeah.
think that's the part. That's where Rose is.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I didn't know it looked like this and felt like this.
Mhm.
I want to change how I feel. I don't
Yeah.
feel good. And
I-
so, Rose, we want you to use your voice.
Yes.
sis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also me becoming a co-parent, I feel like that's when I really was able to exercise how to express like, hey, this is what I need. Like
Yeah,
1
for
week on,
sure.
1 week off. And I also didn't realize the magnitude of how I was showing up as a mom. I was so overwhelmed
Yeah.
as like business owner and
Yeah.
mom. And I'm like, oh my God, this is too much.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
pulling back that week, game changer.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I didn't know until I was in
Yeah.
that situation.
There's no way
But
to know.
Well,
girl, ask for help.
ladies, mamas, ladies, y'all, we need Elaine to come back.
Yes,
We
part
do.
2, please.
Okay.
Please.
Because we got to wrap it up. But this was amazing. We're so excited about the Birth Fund. We're so excited for you. We're proud of you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Can't
we
wait to
are.
celebrate and support.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you for
creating
sharing.
this
So
beautiful
beautiful.
space. Thank you guys.
Listeners, check us out on YouTube tomorrow.
On YouTube.
Black Love's YouTube page, The Mama's Den with Elaine. Ow.
Ew.